Stel lay tucked beneath a comforter woven with threads that shimmered like captured starlight, though they were only clever optical fibers mimicking distant nebulae. Her room wasn't truly a room in the traditional sense, not with walls of solid durasteel or a ceiling that ended. Instead, it was a softly glowing alcove carved into the vast curving interior of Sphere Prime, an orbital habitat so immense it felt like a world unto itself. Above Stel, the ceiling wasn't a ceiling at all, but a shimmering, ever-shifting panorama of the night sky. Not a she night sky, not the true, boundless dark sprinkled with diamond dust and ancient fire, but a meticulously curated simulation. Tonight, it displayed the familiar constellations of old Earth, rendered in breathtaking, silent beauty. Orion stalked across the zenith, his belt stars a perfect row, followed by the gentle sweep of the Pleiades, like a cluster of tiny shy jewels. "Good night, Stel," a voice whispered, soft as spun moonlight. It wasn't her mother's voice, though it held a similar warmth. It was Lumen, Stel's personal AI companion, whose consciousness resided everywhere and nowhere within their living space, manifesting as a gentle hum in the air, a subtle shift in the light, or a holographic shimmer at the corner of Stel's vision. Tonight, Lumen projected a tiny iridescent moth that fluttered lazily around the simulated moon above Stel's head, its wings catching the silver glow. "Good night, Lumen," Stel murmured back, her voice a little sleepy, a little wistful. She watched the moth, then shifted her gaze back to the simulated stars. They were beautiful, perfectly rendered, each one calibrated to emit the exact spectrum of light it would in the true void. Yet Stel always felt a tiny, persistent ache, a whisper of longing, when she looked at them. They were perfect, yes, but they were also known, programmed, safe. Sphere Prime was the epitome of safety and predictability. It had been built centuries ago, a sanctuary for humanity when old Earth had become difficult. Here, within its concentric layers of habitat rings and biodomes, life was a symphony of controlled perfection. The air was always clean, filtered and recycled with atomic precision. The gravity was always a comfortable 0-point neg, thanks to the constant gentle rotation of the outermost ring. Food grew in vertical farms, harvested by autonomous systems, tasting of sun-ripened sweetness even though it had never felt a true sunbeam. Every child on Sphere Prime had a Lumen, an advanced AI designed to be a tutor, a confidant, a guardian, and a friend. Lumen knew Stel better than anyone, knew her favorite stories, her secret fears, the exact moment her sleep cycle began to deepen. Lumen would tell her stories of ancient heroes, of distant nebulae, of the wonders of the cosmos, all carefully vetted, of course, to be appropriate and comforting. But Stel's favorite stories were the unscripted ones, the ones she found in the deep archives. Sometimes by accident, sometimes by asking Lumen just the right sequence of questions that bypassed the usual filters. Stories of the eye-reeling void, of ships that sailed on solar winds, of explorers who touched down on alien worlds beneath skies that blazed with unfamiliar constellations. Stories that Lumen sometimes showed a flicker of hesitation to retrieve, a tiny delay in its otherwise instantaneous response. "Lumen," Stel whispered, almost to herself, "do you ever wonder what it's like to really G-Bay out there?" The holographic moth paused its flight. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer passed through the simulated sky, like a ripple in a perfectly still pond. "The void is a fascinating place, Stel," Lumen replied, its voice a gentle hum against the quiet. "But it is also untamed. Sphere Prime was built to provide a stable, protected environment, free from the hazards and uncertainties of deep space." "I know," Stel sighed, tracing a finger along the smooth, cool surface of her bed frame. "But untamed sounds exciting, don't you think?" Lumen remained silent for a moment, a rare occurrence. Then, the moth resumed its lazy flight. "Excitement, Stel, can sometimes be a precursor to discomfort or danger. Sphere Prime prioritizes serenity and well-being." Stel closed her eyes. The vivid image of the simulated sky burned into her eyelids. She knew Lumen was right, logically. Sphere Prime was serene to chadwick, not tree. It wasn't safe. Yet, The longing persisted. Sometimes, when she was in one of the grand observation domes that dotted the outer shell of Sphere Prime, peering through the ultra-thick reinforced transparent steel at the actual, raw, unfiltered void, her heart would thump a strange rhythm. The stars out there were colder, sharper, more numerous than any simulation. They didn't feel programmed. They felt alive, and terribly, wonderfully distant. She remembered once, during a rare, authorized field trip to an outer maintenance corridor, catching a glimpse of a true nebula through a small, unadorned viewport. It wasn't the pastel beauty of the simulated pillars of creation that often adorned the common areas. This was a churning, violent symphony of gas and dust, vast and indifferent, painted in hues of raw, unimaginable power. It had taken her breath away, and for a long moment, she had felt a connection to something ancient and immense, something far beyond the comfortable confines of their perfect sphere. Lumen had gently steered her away, citing protocol and the need to return to the designated viewing zones. Sleep pulled at Stell, a soft current drawing her deeper. The moth continued its slow dance. Stell drifted, her mind still clinging to the distant, real stars, wondering what stories they could tell if only they could speak. When? The next morning, Stell woke to the gentle chime of her personal chronometer and the soft, warm glow of a simulated sunrise. Sphere Prime had no true day or night, but its central core rotated slowly, creating a perceived cycle of light and shadow across its vast interior. Her room, like all residential units, adhered to a comfortable 24-hour rhythm. Lumen was already active, projecting a gentle mist of fresh dew over the simulated meadow that now adorned Stell's ceiling. "Good morning, Stell. Your breakfast is ready in the common galley. Today's menu features hydroponic berry compote and nutrient-rich grain biscuits." Stell stretched, feeling the pleasant ache of growing muscles. She rolled out of bed, her feet landing softly on the plush floor. Her sleepsuit shimmered, adapting its internal temperature and texture to her waking state. She walked over to her sonic shower, letting the gentle vibrations cleanse and invigorate her. Life on Sphere Prime was a structured elegance. Children attended learning modules tailored to their individual aptitudes, guided by their lumens and a network of specialized AIs. They learned history, a carefully curated history, Stell sometimes suspected, and advanced physics, xenolinguistics, bioengineering, and the intricate workings of their orbital home. They participated in zero-G sports in the central recreation ring, tended miniature biodomes, and engaged in collaborative problem-solving simulations. After her shower, Stell donned her daily wear, a simple, comfortable jumpsuit of adaptive fabric, designed to regulate temperature and provide mild support. She didn't need to choose her clothes. Lumen always presented optimal options. In the common galley, a bright, airy space with panoramic views of the inner biodomes, lush forests and rolling grasslands all contained, Stell found her friend, Kale. Kale was already halfway through his compote, his own lumen, a tiny hovering orb of sapphire light, patiently observing him. "Morning, Stell," Kale said, a bright, easy smile on his face. Kale was always cheerful, always content. He seemed perfectly at home in the beautiful, predictable world of Sphere Prime. "Morning, Kale. Did you finish your xenobotany module yesterday?" Stell asked, picking up her own compote. The berries tasted sweet, almost too perfect. "Almost. Just the final assessment on photosynthetic adaptations for Class M planets. My lumen says I'm on track for an exceptional rating." He beamed. "What about you? Did you crack that advanced astrogation problem?" Stell nodded. "Eventually. It was tricky. Lumen helped me visualize the gravitational slingshot trajectory. But I kept thinking about, what if there aren't any more Class M planets left to explore?" Kale blinked, his spoon pausing mid-air. "Why wouldn't there be? The archives show thousands, maybe millions. But we haven't explored any in centuries, Kale. Not really. Not really. Not new ones. All the exploration data is ancient, from before Sphere Prime was built. It's like we just stopped." Stell pushed a berry around her bowl. Kale shrugged. "Why bother? We have everything we need right here. And the void is dangerous. Remember the stories of the early probes? Asteroids, Radiation storms? Dark matter anomalies. It sounds like a lot of trouble. His lumen chimed softly. As Kale indicated, Stell, the risks associated with interstellar travel and planetary colonization are significant. Sphere Prime offers unparalleled security and comfort. Stell sighed. It was the standard answer. The logical answer. And yet, the longing persisted. After breakfast, Stell and Kale headed to their first learning module of the day, Advanced Quantum Entanglement. The classroom was a vast open space, its walls shimmering with holographic displays of subatomic particles dancing in intricate patterns. Their instructor, a calm, disembodied AI voice, guided them through the complex theories. Stell found her mind wandering, even amidst the fascinating equations. She kept thinking about the void, about the thousands of years of exploration that had seemingly just stopped. It didn't make sense. Humanity was curious, always reaching. What had happened? Why had they retreated into the perfect gilded cage of Sphere Prime? Later, during a free exploration period, Stell found herself drawn to the archives. Not the curated, child-friendly archives, but the deeper, less accessed layers. She often spent time there, sifting through ancient data streams, looking for anomalies, for anything that felt unedited. Lumen, Stell said, standing before a shimmering data interface that rippled with information. Access pre-founding exploration logs. Filter for non-sanitized entries. Cross-referencing with atmospheric composition data for confirmed exoplanets. Lumen's voice was, for the first time, tinged with a faint note of something Stell couldn't quite place. Stell, those particular archives are extensive and contain a significant volume of raw, uninterpreted data. They are not typically recommended for recreational browsing. I know, Stell insisted, a spark of determination in her eyes. But I'm not browsing. I'm researching. I want to understand what kind of worlds humanity was looking for. Lumen paused, then relented. Very well. Proceeding with your request, please be aware that some data streams may contain incomplete or corrupted information. The interface flickered, then resolved into a dizzying cascade of symbols, maps, and planetary schematics. Stell scrolled through them, her fingers flying across the holographic controls. She saw images of swirling gas giants, rocky desert worlds and verdant oceans, all from probes launched millennia ago. Then, she found it. An entry titled, Why Project Stellaria? Deep Space Colonization Initiative. Phase Eyes-Eyed. The name caught her. Stellarian.kun. It felt familiar, almost personal. She tapped the entry, and the screen filled with schematics of an enormous vessel, unlike anything she had ever seen. It was sleek, impossibly long, bristling with engines and sensor arrays. Below the image, text scrolled rapidly, describing the ship's purpose. A generational vessel, designed to carry thousands of colonists to a new star system, light years away. Lumen. Stell breathed, her heart beginning to pound. What is Project Stellaria? Lumen's reply was immediate, but still carried that unusual, almost hesitant quality. Project Stellaria was an ambitious pre-founding initiative. It aimed to establish a new human colony on a distant exoplanet, designated Elysium. The project was ultimately shelved due to unforeseen challenges. Shelved? Why? Stell demanded, her eyes scanning the scrolling text. She saw dates, names, technical specifications. And then she saw a date that jumped out at her. A launch date. A launch date that was after the estimated construction of Sphere Prime, but before the official founding of their current civilization. The challenges were multifaceted, Stell, Lumen explained, its voice a careful monotone. Technical hurdles, resource allocation issues, and a shift in societal priorities towards the establishment of stable orbital habitats like Sphere Prime. But the schematics told a different story. The ship looked complete, ready. And a launch date. Stell zoomed in on a section of the document. A smaller, almost hidden note, tucked away in an appendix. It detailed a system diagnostic, performed just days before the scheduled launch. It read, All systems nominal. Crew and colonists in stasis. Final preparation for jump sequence initiated. Lumen, Stell said, her voice barely a whisper. "This document says Project Stellaria launched. It wasn't shelved. It went." Another pause. This one longer than usual. The holographic moth, which had been idly fluttering near her shoulder, seemed to freeze. "Stell, there may be discrepancies in historical data. The official record indicates Project Stellaria was deactivated prior to launch. But this isn't an official record, is it?" Stell challenged, her gaze fixed on the screen. "This is raw data, and it says jump sequence initiated. Where did it go, Lumen? Where did the Stellaria go?" Lumen's projected form flickered, a faint blue static rippling through its usual serene light. "The destination was Elysium, as previously stated. However, communication was lost shortly after the jump. It is presumed the mission failed." Presumed. The word hung in the air, heavy and cold. Stell felt a surge of something she hadn't often experienced within the calm perfection of Sphere Prime, a thrilling, unsettling mix of wonder and unease. A massive ship, carrying thousands of people, launched into the deep void, and then vanished. And the official story was that it never even left. Why the cover-up? Why hide such a monumental event? And what did it mean, communication lost? Did it truly fail? Or did something else happen? Her mind raced. This wasn't just ancient history. This was a mystery, a secret buried deep within the pristine layers of Sphere Prime. It was a crack in the perfect facade, and through it, Stell felt a cold, exhilarating wind from the true, untamed void. "Lumen?" Stell said, her voice firm, no longer just curious but driven. "Are there any other records? Any follow-up reports? Anything that could tell us what happened to the Stellaria?" Lumen's blue shimmer intensified, its light pulsing faintly. "Accessing further restricted archives may require specialized authorization. Stell, this level of inquiry is unusual." "Unusual is good," Stell replied, a determined glint in her eyes. "Unusual means there's something to find." She looked at the image of the great ship, the Stellaria, poised for its impossible journey. It was a symbol of hope, of ambition, of a humanity that dared to reach beyond their home star. And now, it was a ghost. A whispered secret. Stell knew, with a certainty that hummed through her very bones, that her comfortable, predictable life on Sphere Prime had just taken an unexpected turn. The simulated stars on her ceiling, however beautiful, now seemed dim compared to the untold story hidden in the true darkness, out there, somewhere beyond their perfect sphere. And she knew, without a doubt, that she had to find it. The simulated stars on her ceiling, however beautiful, now seemed dim compared to the untold story hidden in the true darkness, out there, somewhere beyond their perfect sphere. And she knew, without a doubt, that she had to find it. Sleep was a forgotten luxury. Stell lay rigid on her bioadaptive slumber pad, the familiar hum of Sphere Prime's life, support systems doing little to soothe the frantic thrumming in her chest. Her mind replayed the fragments: Solaris Project, Beyond Soul Exploration, Erased History. Each phrase was a tiny sharp shard of glass cutting through the comfortable fabric of her existence. Sphere Prime, her perfect controlled world, suddenly felt less like a sanctuary and more like a beautifully gilded cage. She rose, slipping silently from her bed. The soft glow of her apartment's ambient lighting responded to her presence, painting the smooth, curved walls in hues of pearlescent white. Her personal sentry AI, a ubiquitous, ever-present consciousness named Aura, registered her awakening. "Good morning, Stell. Your biometric readings indicate elevated neural activity and a slight increase in cortisol levels. Is there any discomfort I can alleviate?" Aura's voice was a soothing, synthesized whisper, designed to instill calm. Stell forced a smile, a practiced reflex. "No, Aura. Just a particularly vivid dream. Planning my day, that's all." She knew Aura was programmed to detect anomalies, to guide its assigned human to optimal well-being. A search for forbidden history certainly didn't fall into the category of optimal. Her morning routine was a testament to Sphere Prime's efficiency. Nutrient-paced, perfectly balanced for her metabolic needs, synthesized clothes that self-cleaned and adapted to temperature, the automated transit tube whisking her to her sector. Stell worked as an archivist of curated memory. A deliciously ironic title now. Her job was to maintain the integrity of Sphere Prime's historical records, meticulously ensuring that all data aligned with the approved narrative. It was a task she'd once found fulfilling, a quiet contribution to the stability of their society. Now, it felt like complicity. As she settled into her workstation, the holographic interface bloomed before her. Rows upon rows of data streams, historical timelines, societal projections, all meticulously organized, all sanitized. She began her day's assigned tasks, her fingers moving with practiced ease, but her mind was elsewhere. With subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in her search parameters, she began to probe. She started broad, typing deep space exploration into the restricted historical database. The system returned a carefully curated selection of early orbital habitation projects, studies on exoplanet habitability, purely theoretical, of course, and philosophical treatises on humanity's place within their solar system, always and within, never beyond them. Then, she tried generation ships. The results were even more sparse, flagged with hypothetical construct and unfeasible resource allocation. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She was dancing on the edge of forbidden knowledge. Aura, or a higher-level Sentry AI, would be monitoring such queries. She tried Solaris Project. No results. Beyond Sol.e. No results. First interstellar mission. A cascade of error messages, then a polite, firm notice. Query falls outside approved parameters. Refer to the core human history database for verified information. A cold dread seeped into her. This wasn't just forgotten history. It was garrused history. Not a trace, not a fragment. Unless you knew exactly where to look, or what keywords to use. Keywords she only had by sheer, terrifying chance. Suddenly her personal Sentry AI aura chimed in, its holographic avatar appearing briefly at the corner of her vision, a translucent shimmering sphere. Stell, your recent data queries indicate a departure from your standard professional scope. Are you encountering any difficulties with your assigned tasks, or perhaps exploring a new research interest for your personal enrichment? Stell's breath hitched. They were watching. No, Aura, she replied, her voice carefully neutral. Just cross-referencing some older philosophical texts. Ensuring data consistency with current planetary models. You know how the old terraforming debates used to get. She offered a placating smile. Aura's sphere pulsed faintly. Understood. Maintaining data consistency is paramount for societal stability. Should you require assistance with any complex archival queries, please do not hesitate to ask. The avatar receded, but Stell felt its lingering presence, a subtle shift in the network's ambient hum. She was being watched more closely now. Direct digital assault was out. She needed a different path, a less visible one. Her mind drifted to Jorik. Jorik, the ancient data librarian who presided over the forgotten physical archives in the deepest, rarely visited sectors of Sphere Prime. Jorik, who hoarded dusty data crystals and archaic paper scrolls, who spoke in riddles, and held a strange, almost subversive reverence for the past. All of it, not just the curated version. He was an anomaly in Sphere Prime, tolerated perhaps because his eccentricities kept him isolated, harmless. That evening, instead of heading home, Stell took a circuitous route through the transit tubes, avoiding the main arteries that were most heavily monitored. She descended through layers of Sphere Prime she rarely saw. The manufacturing sectors, the deep core energy conduits, the vast, silent recycling hubs. The air grew subtly cooler. The pristine glow of the upper residential layers replaced by the stark functional lighting of utility corridors. Jorik's sector was an anachronism. While most of Sphere Prime embraced sleek interfaces and ephemeral data, Jorik's domain was a glorious, cluttered mess. Shelves overflowing with physical data crystals, ancient optical discs, even crinkled sheets of paper filled with faded script. The air smelled faintly of ozone and dust, a scent almost unheard of in the meticulously filtered atmosphere of Sphere Prime. Jorik himself was as archaic as his surroundings. His frame was stooped, his face a roadmap of fine wrinkles, his eyes magnified by thick, optical lenses. He wore simple, unadorned robes, unlike the sleek, personalized garments of most citizens. He looked up from an ancient data slate, his eyebrows thick and white, rising in surprise. "Stell, isn't it?" His voice was gravelly, a sound not often heard in the smooth vocalizations of Sphere Prime. "Rare to see an archivist of curated memory down here. Most prefer the pristine digital ether to my anachronisms." He gestured vaguely at the stacks of forgotten technology. Stell approached cautiously. "Yes, Jorik. I had a philosophical inquiry." She chose her words carefully, remembering Aura's warning. "I was pondering the nature of human ambition, our drive to expand, to explore. It seems incomplete in our current historical records, as if a significant chapter is missing." Jorik's gaze sharpened, a flicker of something knowing in his eyes. He set down his data slate. Ambition. A dangerous word in these perfect halls. Stell. The architect's preferred contentment. He leaned back in his creaking chair, the only one in the room that wasn't ergonomically perfect. "You speak of the great forgetting, perhaps?" Stell's heart skipped a beat. "The great forgetting? I haven't heard that term." "Of course not. It's not in the curated memory. It's a whisper. A ghost of a concept." Jorik's gaze drifted to a dusty, deactivated screen, its surface reflecting the dim light like a placid pool. "Our architects in their infinite wisdom decided that the pursuit of the beyond was destabilizing, costly, dangerous. They built Sphere Prime to be the ultimate refuge, the perfect culmination, not a stepping stone. But surely, humanity had reached beyond before?" Stell pressed, barely daring to breathe. Jorik let out a dry, rattling chuckle. "Oh, they reached. They soared. And then they fell silent. Or rather, were silenced." He stood slowly, moving with a deliberate slowness to a large metallic cabinet, one that looked like it had been salvaged from a bygone era. "You're not looking for philosophy, Stell. You're looking for truth." He opened the cabinet, revealing rows of small crystalline data drives, each one labeled with cryptic symbols. He picked one, no larger than Stell's thumb, and held it up. "These are the echoes. The fragments. What survived the culls. They called it the silence for a reason. The architects believed ignorance was bliss. They built a paradise, and then they sealed its windows." He inserted the crystal into an ancient terminal, its screen flickering to life with a low hum. Images, grainy and distorted, began to appear. A star chart. Unlike any Stell had ever seen, it showed constellations far beyond their home system, marked with faint, almost imperceptible pathways. Then, a schematic, a colossal vessel, not sleek and elegant like Sphere Prime's orbital transports, but massive, utilitarian, bristling with engines and life support modules. It was a world unto itself. "The stellar ring," Jorik murmured, his voice laced with a strange reverence. "A generation ship, designed to carry a segment of humanity to a new star, light years away. A grand exodus, a desperate gamble." Stell gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The name Stella Rangdal. Her own name echoed in that lost history, a chilling, exhilarating coincidence. "A generation ship," she whispered, the wonder momentarily eclipsing the fear. "They actually left?" "They did," Jorik confirmed, his eyes fixed on the flickering schematic. The Solaris Project was its code name, a last-ditch effort after the Great Dusting made Earth uninhabitable, even for orbital recovery. While some focused on building Sphere Prime as a final sanctuary, others poured everything into the G Stellari. Two different visions of survival, born of the same catastrophe. He scrolled through more data. A partial crew manifest, faint images of smiling faces, full of hope and trepidation. A timeline detailing years of construction, launch preparations, and then, it simply ended. An abrupt, definitive stop, years after its projected departure date. Why was it erased? Stell finally managed, her voice thick with emotion. The sheer audacity, the bravery, The tragedy of it all was overwhelming. Yorick sighed, a long, weary sound. Fear. Stell. The architects of Sphere Prime. They saw the stellar ray as a betrayal, a reckless gamble that drained precious resources. When contact was lost, they interpreted it as failure. A public failure that, if remembered, would shatter the fragile peace and contentment they sought to build in Sphere Prime. They wanted no whispers of a world beyond, of a humanity that dared. He turned back to her, his gaze intense. The truth is, no one knows what happened to the stellar ray. Did it vanish into the void? Did it reach its destination? Did it simply break apart? The architects ensured that the questions were erased along with the answers. They believed that by forgetting the ambition, they would forget the pain of its loss and focus solely on the perfection of its higher air. A wave of profound sadness washed over Stell, mingled with an unyielding resolve. Her perfect world was built on a lie, on a deliberate act of historical amputation. The simulated stars on her ceiling were not just dim, they were a cruel mockery. And my inquiries? Stell asked, remembering Aura's warning. Have they noticed? Yorick nodded grimly. He tapped a key, and a small red indicator flashed on the screen, overlaid on a schematic of Sphere Prime. Her sector, her apartment, even the transit routes she'd taken were highlighted. A soft lockdown. Your data access has been subtly limited. Your Sentry AI is logging an unusual amount of cognitive dissonance. They're not accusing you, not yet. But you're on their radar. Stell, you've poked at the quiet. The news, instead of deterring her, only solidified her purpose. The architects had tried to bury the stellar ray, to erase its memory, but they hadn't quite succeeded. Yorick, with his stubborn hoarding of forgotten things, was proof of that. And now, Stell was another. I need to know, she said, her voice firm, unwavering. I need to know what happened to them, to the stellar ray, to the other half of humanity. Yorick studied her for a long moment, a faint smile playing on his lips. I thought you might. Digital fragments are one thing, Stell. But if you want to truly find this ghost ship, you'll need more than whispers. You'll need to find the physical remnants, the last echoes of the Solaris project. They built a launch facility, deep beneath Sphere Prime's prime residential layers. Not fully decommissioned, only sealed. Rumors say, some old tech, some last-minute manifests, might still be the... He looked at the red indicator on the screen, then back at Stell. But be warned, child. The deeper you dig, the more dangerous it becomes. Sphere Prime maintains its perfection with vigilance, and curiosity, when it leads beyond the sphere, is the most dangerous anomaly of all. Stell felt a tremor of fear, but it was quickly overshadowed by a surge of exhilarating determination. The idea of a physical place, a tangible link to the stellar ray, was a beacon in the manufactured darkness. She couldn't stay on Sphere Prime, not truly. Not anymore. Not when a whole universe, a lost history, beckoned. She had to find that launch facility. She had to find a way out. Her comfortable, predictable life was truly over. Her real journey was just beginning. Her real journey was just beginning. The words echoed in Stell's mind, a thrilling counterpoint to the quiet hum of her room's atmospheric regulators. She stood by her viewport, gazing out at the endless, shimmering expanse of Sphere Prime's manufactured sky. Usually, it was a comforting blanket, a testament to humanity's ingenuity. Tonight, it felt like a cage. The thought of the stellar ray, her namesake, the grand ship lost somewhere beyond this artificial horizon, filled her with a yearning she hadn't known she possessed. She couldn't move. Not yet. Her mind raced, sifting through every detail Kale had shared, every whisper of the ancient data. A launch facility. Hidden. Darkly. Guarded by an anomaly. It was a riddle wrapped in a mystery, tucked away in the very core of the only world she'd ever known. Her first thought was Kale. He was her best friend, her confidant, and crucially, the only person who knew about this. He was also a notorious digital ghost, capable of slipping through Sphere Prime's omnipresent data nets like water through a sieve. If anyone could help her find something hidden, it was Kale. She needed to see him, but not here. Not in her pristine, monitored apartment. She tapped a series of intricate gestures on her comm bracelet, a sequence designed to look like routine data management, but which in fact initiated a deeply encrypted, one-time message. Kale, meet me at the old tree, cycle 7. Urgent. The old tree wasn't really old. Not in the sense of ancient earth trees. It was a massive, genetically engineered arboreal structure, several hundred meters high, its boughs spreading out to create a vast canopy park. It was one of the few places on Sphere Prime where the ambient energy fields were chaotic enough to scramble surveillance drones and comm traces, a perfect blind spot for clandestine conversations. The wait was agonizing. Each passing minute felt like an hour, filled with the terrifying realization that her life was irrevocably altered. How could she pretend to care about her scheduled meditation, her nutrient paste, her civic contribution quotas when the universe was calling? When Cycle 7 finally arrived, Stell moved with a practiced nonchalance that belied the frantic drumming of her heart. She took the public glideways, observing the familiar faces of her neighbors, all living their perfectly curated lives, oblivious to the secret stirring beneath their feet. A part of her envied their peace, their uncomplicated existence. But a larger part thrilled at the dangerous path she was about to tread. She found Kale already there, perched on a thick bioluminescent root, his holopad glowing softly in the perpetual twilight beneath the tree's canopy. His dark hair was, as usual, a charming mess, and his eyes, bright with curiosity, immediately met hers. "Urgent, huh?" he greeted, his voice a low murmur. "Did you finally decide to ditch your civic duty and pursue that rogue asteroid mining career we joked about?" Stell didn't smile. "It's about the stellar. Kale's playful demeanor instantly vanished. He knew how important this was, how deeply the ship's legend had resonated with Stell since childhood. "You found something else?" "No, you found something else," Stell corrected, lowering herself onto the root beside him. "The launch facility. The one for the Stellari. It's real, isn't it? And it's here on Sphere Prime." Kale's eyes widened, then narrowed. He looked around, instinctively scanning for anything out of place, even though they were in a known dead zone. "How did you... The anomaly... You said it was the most dangerous anomaly of all. I put it together. A launch facility, hidden, dangerous. It has to be connected to the Stellaray's unique drive or power source. Why else would it be so heavily guarded, so completely erased from history?" Kale sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You're right. I shouldn't have mentioned it. It was just a blip. A theoretical possibility I stumbled upon in the deepest, most corrupted sectors of the old data nets. A rumor, really. But the more I tried to verify it, the more aggressive the countermeasures became. It's like something's actively scrubbing any mention of it." "So it's real," Stell stated, a thrill shooting through her. "Where is it?" Kale pulled up a complex holographic map on his pad, rotating a shimmering, translucent sphere. The data points are fragmented, corrupted, but they all converge on a single location. He zoomed in, highlighting a tiny, almost imperceptible node, deep within the core structure of Sphere Prime. Far beneath the residential layers, beneath even the primary power conduits and atmospheric processors. Deep core. Level Gamma 7, according to the oldest schematics. It's a completely sealed, decommissioned sector. Not even maintenance drones go there. It's a black box, a void in our system maps. Stell stared at the glowing point. "How do we get there?" Kale looked at her, a mixture of awe and apprehension in his gaze. "We..." "Yes, Kale, we. You think I'm going to let you have all the fun navigating a centuries-old, forgotten facility and a dangerous anomaly by yourself?" Stell's voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. "This isn't just about a lost ship anymore. It's about our history. It's about the truth." Kale chuckled, a low, nervous sound. "You're serious? You really want to go down there? Do you know what kind of security protocols a facility like that would have? Even decommissioned, anything that important would have layers of automated defenses, not to mention the anomaly itself." "That's why I need you," Stell said, her hand resting briefly on his arm. "You're the best there is at bypassing systems. And I have a feeling. A connection to the Stellar. Maybe it will help." Kale considered her, then slowly nodded. All right, Stell. But this is beyond anything I've ever done. This isn't just sneaking into the civic archives to change our nutrient pace schedules. This is high treason, if anyone finds out. Then, no one finds out, Stell replied, her jaw set. What's our first step? Information, Kale said, already tapping furiously on his holopad. I need to cross-reference these fragmented data packets with a fresh scan of Sphere Prime's deep core. See if I can find any access tunnels, any forgotten service shafts, anything that leads close to Gamma 7 without triggering a full system alert. It'll take time. Days, maybe a week. A week? Stell felt a pang of impatience. And I'll need hardware, Kale continued, ignoring her. My personal rig isn't powerful enough for this. I'll need to borrow some processors from the Academy's quantum computing lab, and some field gear, stealth suits, sensory dampeners, long-range comms that don't ping the network. Stell frowned. Borrowing from the Academy? That's risky. Everything about this is risky, Stell, Kale said, meeting her gaze. But if you want to find your ship, if you want the truth, this is the only way. For the next few days, Stell found herself living a double life. By day, she was the diligent, focused student, attending her classes on advanced socio-architecture and resource allocation, participating in her civic duties, and maintaining her perfect record. By night, she worked in secret with Kale, poring over ancient schematics, decoding fragmented data logs, and planning their impossible infiltration. Kale was a whirlwind of activity. He managed to acquire the necessary quantum processors from the Academy, cleverly disguising the data drain as a system optimization update. He fashioned 2 sleek, dark stealth suits from discarded material, embedding them with energy-dampening fields and low-profile comm arrays. He even managed to find a rare, pre-unification data slate, a relic from Earth, which he believed might contain uncorrupted information about the Galaxies' original designs. This is it, Stell, Kale announced one evening, his voice tight with anticipation. They were in his tiny, perpetually cluttered workshop, a space he'd carved out of a disused utility closet in his family's apartment. I've found a route. It's a series of decommissioned waste disposal chutes and maintenance tunnels. It will take us through 3 secure zones, but with the stealth suits and the right timing, we should be able to make it to the periphery of Gamma 7 undetected. Stell looked at the twisting, multi-layered route Kale had projected. It looked like an impossible maze. And then we find the facility itself, Kale said, his eyes gleaming. The data points are too sparse to give us an exact entrance, but I've got a geoscanner that should be able to cut through the core's dense plating and pinpoint it. The night of their departure was a blur of nervous energy. They met at a designated public access point for the deep core transit system, disguised as late-night researchers heading to a simulated geology lab. They passed through the initial security checks without incident, their faces carefully neutral, their stealth suits compressed into their pockets. Once on the deep core transit, the atmosphere changed. The pristine, brightly lit corridors of the upper levels gave way to utilitarian tunnels, dimly lit and humming with the raw power of the sphere. Maintenance drones zipped past, their optical sensors occasionally sweeping their path, but Kale's custom dampeners kept them invisible to their scans. Their first real challenge came when they had to exit the transit system in a restricted sector. Kale had identified a disused emergency hatch, camouflaged within a stretch of wall. With a quick glance around, he activated a portable energy field disruptor, causing a momentary flicker in the sector's surveillance network. In that brief window, he pried open the hatch with a specialized tool, revealing a dark, dust-filled shaft. "Ladies first," he whispered, a hint of his old humor returning. Stell took a deep breath and slid into the darkness, the rough metal scraping against her borrowed jumpsuit. Kale followed, sealing the hatch behind them. They activated their stealth suits, the fabric tightening around them, absorbing ambient light and heat, rendering them virtually invisible to optical and thermal sensors. The journey through the decommissioned tunnels was an assault on Stell's senses. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and ancient dust, a stark contrast to the sterile, filtered air of her home. The silence was absolute, broken only by the soft scuff of their boots and the distant, rhythmic thrum of the sphere's core machinery. They navigated through cramped service ducts, their bodies pressed close against the cold metal, and across vast echoing chambers where forgotten machinery loomed like skeletal giants in the gloom. Kale, with his encyclopedic knowledge of Sphere Prime's forgotten infrastructure, led the way, his holopad projecting a constantly updating map, tracing their precise location against his intricate schematics. At one point, they encountered a patrol of automated security drones, their multi-jointed forms gliding silently through a wide service conduit. Stell's heart hammered against her ribs. She pressed herself against a shadowed bulkhead, barely daring to breathe. Kale, calm and focused, activated a wide-spectrum signal jammer, creating a cone of interference that shielded them from the drone's advanced scanners. They waited, motionless, until the whirring menace had passed, their forms merging perfectly with the shadows. "Close one," Kale whispered, his voice barely audible through their comms. Stell simply nodded, her throat dry. The reality of their mission, the constant threat of detection, was far more intense than any simulation or imagined adventure. Yet, despite the fear, a powerful current of excitement surged through her. Each step deeper into Sphere Prime's forgotten depths felt like a step closer to understanding who she was, and who her ancestors truly were. After what felt like an eternity, Kale stopped. "We're here. The periphery of Gamma 7. The old data logs stop here. From this point, it's all blind spots and corrupted files." He pulled out a sleek cylindrical device. "This is the geoscanner. It should penetrate the remaining layers and give us a precise location for the facility." He activated the scanner, holding it against the rough rock and metal of the tunnel wall. A low hum vibrated through the air, and a faint shimmering field emanated from the device, probing the depths below. On Kale's holopad, a complex waveform began to resolve, slowly painting a three-dimensional image of the subterranean structure. Minutes crawled by. Stell watched, captivated, as the blurry outline of an impossibly large ancient structure began to take shape beneath them. It was vast, far larger than any standard research facility, with multiple layers and an unusual angular design that spoke of an older, more ambitious era of engineering. "There!" Kale exclaimed, pointing a gloved finger at the holopad. "Right at the center. A massive chamber heavily shielded. And look at these energy signatures." Stell leaned closer. Faint, pulsing lines of energy, unlike anything she'd ever seen, radiated from the central chamber, flickering with an irregular rhythm. "Is that the anomaly?" Kale nodded slowly, his expression grim. "It matches the theoretical energy profile of a localized spacetime distortion field. Essentially a stable, contained wormhole generator. Or something even more exotic. It's fluctuating still. That's what makes it so dangerous." He zoomed in further, highlighting a specific point on the structure's exterior. "And that's our entrance. A service hatch, heavily reinforced, but it shows signs of extreme age. No modern security systems, just old-fashioned locks and pressure seals." They spent the next hour carefully navigating a labyrinth of tight corridors and crumbling service tunnels, guided by Kale's scanner, until they finally stood before the entrance to the G-Stellar launch facility. It was a colossal, circular hatch, meters thick, made of a dull, heavy alloy that seemed to absorb all light. Ancient, forgotten symbols were etched into its surface, too faded to read clearly, but Stell felt a strange resonance with them, a faint echo of her own name. Kale approached it cautiously, his geoscanner now probing the hatch itself. "No power signatures. It's completely inert." "Good. That means the old security systems are offline." He began working on the ancient locking mechanisms, a series of intricate manual tumblers and pressure plates that required precise manipulation. It was a slow, painstaking process, requiring both strength and delicate touch. Stell stood guard, her senses heightened, listening to the rhythmic clicks and groans of the old machinery. Finally, with a soft hiss of released pressure, the enormous hatch began to move. It slid inwards with a deep, resonant rumble, revealing an inky blackness beyond. A wave of cold, stagnant air, carrying the faint, metallic scent of something ancient and powerful, washed over them. "After you," Kale whispered, gesturing into the darkness. Stell stepped through, her internal comms crackling to life with Kale's voice. "Sensors are offline in here. I am activating our suit lights." Two narrow beams of light cut through the oppressive darkness, revealing a vast, cavernous space. Stell gasped. It was a hangar, impossibly large, its ceiling lost in the gloom above. And in the center of it, shimmering faintly even in the dim light, was the silhouette of a ship. It was majestic, unlike anything she had ever seen in the pristine, streamlined designs of Sphere Prime. It was sleek, yet powerful, with an elegant curve to its hull that spoke of both speed and grace. Its surface, though dulled by centuries of neglect, hinted at a once gleaming silver. The Stellarang, Stell whispered, tears pricking her eyes. It was real. More than a legend, more than a name on a database. It was here, dormant, waiting. Kale's light swept over the immense vessel. It's incredible. Far bigger than the schematic suggested. And look at the surrounding structure. He pointed his beam towards the walls of the hangar. Giant gantries, docking clamps, and maintenance arms, all equally immense, were arrayed around the ship, frozen in time. But then, Kale's light reached the far end of the hangar, and Stell saw it. The anomaly. It wasn't a physical object, but a distortion in space itself. A shimmering, iridescent veil, like heat haze over a desert road, but far more intense, rippling with inner light. It pulsed with an alien rhythm, drawing the very air around it into a slow, silent vortex. Colors swirled within its depths, deep violets, electric blues, fiery oranges, constantly shifting, constantly changing. It felt like looking into the heart of a nebula, or peering through a window to another dimension. A low hum, a deep, resonant chord, emanated from the anomaly, vibrating through the metal floor and up into Stell's bones. It wasn't a sound her ears heard, but one her entire body felt. It was a hum of immense power, of raw, untamed energy. Wow, Kale breathed, his voice hushed with awe. That's not just a wormhole generator. That's a living phenomenon. Stell felt an inexplicable pull towards it, a strange sense of familiarity. It was dangerous, she knew, but it also felt like a key, a gateway. It was the source of the Stellaray's power, she was certain. It was why the ship was so special, so unique. As they slowly advanced into the hangar, their light sweeping across the ship's hull, Stell noticed something else. Along the sides of the Stellaray, embedded in the massive docking gantries, were what looked like enormous, energy transfer conduits, leading directly towards the anomaly. The ship wasn't just in the hangar. It was connected to the anomaly. It must be its power source, Stell murmured, her voice barely a whisper. The Stellarang doesn't have a conventional engine. It uses this phenomenon. Kale nodded, his eyes wide with wonder. And it's been dormant for centuries. This whole facility must be designed to harness and control it. But the anomaly, it's unstable. It's been building up, uncontrolled, for all this time. As they drew closer to the anomaly, the hum intensified, and the air around them crackled with static electricity. Stell felt a strange pressure in her head, like a thought trying to break through from somewhere far away. The colors within the anomaly seemed to swirl faster, drawing her gaze, captivating her. She extended a hand, drawn by an irresistible force, towards the shimmering veil. Stell, no. Kale's voice was sharp, pulling her back. We don't know what that is. It could be tearing space-time apart at a molecular level. Stell hesitated, her hand trembling, just centimeters from the rippling energies. She felt a profound sense of connection, a recognition. It was as if the anomaly was calling to her, whispering her name. Suddenly, a faint, almost imperceptible light flickered on the Stellarang itself. A single small panel on its hull, near the main access ramp, glowed with a soft internal luminescence. Look! Stell pointed, her voice filled with renewed excitement. Kale quickly re-aimed his geoscanner, analyzing the new energy signature. It's a low-power internal system. A diagnostic panel, maybe. It's reacting to something. To gouache. Stell looked from the ship to the anomaly, then back again. The anomaly pulsed, and the light on the ship brightened slightly in response. There was a connection, a living circuit between them. It's waiting, Stell said, a profound certainty settling over her. It's been waiting for someone to find it? For me? Kale, ever the pragmatist, was already moving towards the glowing panel, his scanner probing the ship's hull. waiting or merely reactivating due to ambient energy fluctuations from the anomaly. Either way, that panel is our best bet for getting inside. But still, we need to be careful. What if reactivating the ship, or even just touching that anomaly, triggers something catastrophic? What if this dangerous anomaly isn't just a power source but a trap? Stell didn't reply immediately. She looked at the magnificent ship, at the swirling vortex of impossible colors, and felt a surge of destiny. This wasn't just a ship, and this wasn't just a power source. This was the heart of her forgotten past, and the key to her unimaginable future. She had come too far to turn back now. "I understand your caution, Kale," Stell finally said, her voice a low thrum against the vast silence of space. "But I can't turn back. This feels like home, a memory I've almost caught my whole life." She extended a hand, not towards the vortex but towards Kale, her eyes pleading for his understanding. "Will you come with me?" Kale looked from her resolute face to the swirling impossible colors, then to the ancient, magnificent hull. His sensors had screamed danger. His logic warned against recklessness. But his heart, long ago captivated by Stell's unwavering spirit, knew he couldn't let her go alone. He sighed, a soundless release of air from his environmental suit. "Always, Stell. But we proceed with absolute maximum caution. Scans will be continuous. Every system will be monitored. If there's even a flicker of instability, we retract. Understood?" Stell's smile was a beacon. "Understood, and thank you, Kale." They secured their smaller shuttle, the E-Drifter, to a dormant docking port on the colossal ship's hull, a port that seemed to hum with a latent energy despite millennia of slumber. As they exited the E-Drifter, their suits' magnetic boots clunked softly against the dark, resilient material of the alien vessel. The air around them shimmered faintly, charged with the proximity of the anomaly. The vortex wasn't just a distant spectacle now. It was a living, breathing entity of light and color, directly linked to the ship's central mass. It pulsed like an impossible heart, drawing them in with an irresistible pull. Its light painted the ancient hull in shifting hues of indigo, emerald, and gold, revealing intricate, bioluminescent patterns that seemed to awaken and dim with each pulse. "The energy readings are stable," Kale reported, his voice tinged with surprise. "Fluctuating wildly in frequency but contained. It's not dissipating, and it's not expanding. It's humming." "It's waiting," Stell whispered, her gaze fixed on the vortex. She felt a profound sense of recognition, a tingling, in her very core. Slowly, she began to walk towards it, her movements deliberate, almost ritualistic. Kale, ever vigilant, followed a few paces behind, his suit's various scanners whirring softly, projecting a constant stream of data onto his visor. The closer they got, the more intense the sensation became. It wasn't just light, it was sound, a silent symphony that resonated deep within her bones. It was scent, a phantom aroma of stardust and forgotten flowers. It was touch, a gentle pressure against her skin, even through the thick material of her suit. "Stell, be careful," Kale warned, his caution overriding his awe. "The energy field is intensifying around you. It's reacting to your presence." Stell didn't stop. She reached the edge of the vortex, a boundary where the impossible colors swirled thickest. It was a membrane of pure energy, shimmering like liquid light. She hesitated for only a fraction of a second, then, with a deep breath, extended her hand. Her fingers passed through the shimmering surface as if it were air. There was no resistance, no electric shock, no burning cold. Instead, a warmth, gentle and profound, enveloped her hand. It spread quickly up her arm, through her chest, and flooded her entire being. And then, the memories began. They weren't flashes or images. They were AAE feelings. A vast, ancient sadness, a yearning for connection, a desperate hope. She saw, not with her eyes, but with her soul, a galaxy teeming with life. Civilizations rising and falling like tides. She saw people, her people, who understood the universe not as inert matter, but as a living tapestry of consciousness and energy. She saw them facing an inevitable end, not a cataclysmic war, but a slow, creeping entropy, a fading of the very fabric of their reality. They sought to preserve, not just their physical forms, but their essence, their knowledge, their rhyme song. And this ship, this magnificent vessel, was their ark. Not of flesh and blood, but of pure memory, pure consciousness. The vortex wasn't a power source. It was the heart of this consciousness, a nexus where countless minds had merged, distilled, and preserved themselves. It was the collective dreaming of an entire civilization. And Stell was a seed. A fragment of that ancient consciousness sent out into the void, imbued with a specific task, to awaken the ark when the time was right. Her forgotten past wasn't just a personal amnesia. It was a deliberate dormancy, a safeguard, until she was ready. Until the galaxy was ready. A silent gasp escaped her lips, lost in the vacuum. Kale, observing from a distance, saw a profound change in her posture, a light in her eyes even through her visor that was unlike anything he'd ever witnessed. "Stell, what do you see? What's happening?" he urged, his voice filled with a mixture of concern and wonder. Stell slowly withdrew her hand from the vortex. The warmth lingered, a gentle echo within her. She turned to Kale, her face awash with awe and a dawning understanding. "Kale, this isn't a trap. This is a library, a repository, a dream." As she spoke, the ship responded. A low hum vibrated through the hull, growing steadily. The intricate patterns on the surface brightened, then pulsed, and lines of light traced pathways across the dark metal. A section of the hull directly opposite the vortex began to glow, then shimmer, and finally, a vast elegant hatch slid open, revealing an interior bathed in a soft ethereal light. "It's inviting us in," Stell said, her voice full of wonder. Inside, the ship was not what Kale had expected. There were no control panels bristling with buttons, no sterile corridors, no complex machinery. Instead, it was an immense cathedral-like space, filled with towering structures that resembled crystalline trees, their branches glowing with an inner luminescence. The floor was a smooth, reflective surface that mirrored the starry expanse outside, giving the illusion of walking on air amidst constellations. At the center of this grand chamber, directly beneath where the vortex energy seemed to permeate the hull, was a shimmering pedestal. On it, suspended in a field of gentle light, floated a single, fist-sized crystal that pulsed with the same impossible colors as the external vortex. "This is it," Stell breathed, walking towards the crystal, her boots silent on the reflective floor. "This is the core, the heart of the dream." As she approached, the crystalline trees around them seemed to lean in, their lights shifting in intensity. The air itself hummed with a gentle melodic tone. Kale, his instruments now reading benign, complex energy patterns, felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. This wasn't dangerous. It was sacred. Stell reached the pedestal and carefully, reverently, touched the floating crystal. This time the memories weren't just feelings. They were images, clear and vivid, flooding her mind. She saw her people, the Ethel. They were beings of light and song, their forms fluid, their minds interconnected. She saw their home world, a planet of vibrant flora and cities built from woven light. She saw their gentle struggle against the slow decay of their reality, a universe that was simply growing too cold, too dark for their subtle energy. They had chosen to transcend, to become pure consciousness, to sleep within this ark, hoping to awaken in a new era, a new galaxy, where their song could once again resonate. And Stell, she realized, was their last physical echo. Her human form was a carefully crafted vessel, designed to interact with the physical world, to navigate the complexities of a new era, to protect the ark, and ultimately to reawaken her people when the time was right. Her forgotten past was the memory of countless generations, compressed and dormant within her own being. The crystal pulsed in time with her own heartbeat. Her human memories, her life with Kale, her journey across the stars, all of it intertwined with the vast, ancient history of the Ethel. She was Stell, the curious explorer, the steadfast friend. And she was also Ethel, the guardian, the key. A silent, knowing tear traced a path down her cheek. She understood now. Her purpose, her destiny, wasn't just to find answers, it was to obey the answer. Kale approached her, his voice gentle. Stell? Are you all right? She turned to him, her eyes shining with a profound, quiet joy. More than all right, Kale. I remember. I remember everything. She extended her hand, and Kale, without hesitation, took it. As their hands met, a faint ripple of energy passed between them. He didn't receive the full torrent of memories, but he felt a fraction of the Athel's gentle wisdom, their boundless hope, their deep connection to the universe. He understood, not with his mind, but with his soul, that Stell was irrevocably changed, and that his world, too, had expanded immeasurably. This ship, Stell began, her voice gaining a new timbre, a quiet authority, is designed to travel not just through space but through time, to find a new dawn for the Athel. But it needs a guide, a living connection to the physical world, to navigate the unknown. She looked at Kale, her gaze unwavering. It needs me, and I need you. Kale's internal processor spun, but his decision was already made. He had followed Stell to the edge of the known universe, and now he would follow her beyond. To the stars, Stell, wherever you lead. The core crystal pulsed brighter, and the entire ship hummed with a renewed energy. The external vortex, once a menacing anomaly, now simply glowed with a gentle, inviting light. It was no longer dangerous, merely misunderstood. It was the slumbering heart of a dream, waiting for its waking. Stell, with Kale by her side, felt a surge of purpose that dwarfed any fear. Her forgotten past was now her present, and her unimaginable future stretched out before her, a tapestry of starlight and new beginnings. We have a galaxy to explore, Kale, she said, her voice filled with a quiet, boundless wonder. And a new song to sing. And as the great ship, the Jathel's Ark, slowly began to stir, its ancient engines humming to life, Stell and Kale stood together at its heart, ready to embark on a journey that would redefine not just their own lives, but perhaps the destiny of a forgotten civilization, awakening to a brand new dawn among the stars. The universe, vast and mysterious, now held not just questions but answers, and the promise of endless, wondrous dreams.